and where your head's at before competition is so, so important. And I think, to be honest, I sharpened this from a coaching perspective, like seeing it for 17 years coaching, you know, like getting ramped up too early and then you get a rain delay at the game and everyone comes out cold. How do you master that stuff? And you see it over the years of like, okay, this worked, this didn't work. You know what I mean? Like how to balance that out, you know, when to be calm and when to build up. It's interesting because every person's different. And coming back to Chance, he's totally different than me. Like I need a build up. Like it doesn't have to be long, but I need like a mental, let's shut everything off, maybe put the earphones in or whatever, or not, whatever I need to do for about 10 minutes to reset myself and get myself in a mind state for competition. Chance can kind of float. He'll float all the way to the match until he's in the first match, you know? And you see other guys like John Brzezinski, he's the same way. Like he'll be just totally calm, relaxed, and he won't, you almost don't see John show any emotion until he's in like round 2 or 3, you know? It's everyone's different, you know? And there's no perfect way to do it. You got to it's trial and error. But I think those things, the mental aspect of competing, especially in arm wrestling, is super huge. Like it's very big because it's a short-lived competition. Like even if you're doing a 5-round match, like you're only looking at between start and finish, probably 20 minutes, you know, like it's a very short competition time. So you have to peak perfectly and you got to figure out what works for you. And sometimes there's variables that you can't control.
Yeah, no, I like what you just said. That's a really great perspective. And I never thought about that as a coach. Not that I was a coach, but you know, I can see like how you would have these disappointments and delays and stuff and how it could like relate to arm wrestling, because that's a lot of people's biggest downfall is they'll be at a tournament, it's at 12 o'clock and then they don't pull till 5 or 6, you know, or they pull and then the finals aren't till later or whatever. So it's like a couple, maybe an hour or two, you know, and how to kind of conserve your energy and the mental aspect of arm wrestling. That's what I love about the sport so much is the mental aspect of it, because that's what's taught me, because I suffer from like, I think like competition anxiety. Like by the time I get to an event, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to be here. I'm going to get my ass kicked. And it's just, and then all of a sudden, once I get to where I need to be, it all kind of switches. It's almost like how Mike Tyson would explain going to the ring. And then once he got there, he was like, I feel like, you know, indestructible or whatever. But the whole fucking narrative leading up to that is just fucking so like, just a horrible, and I haven't lost that feeling. And I remember when I talked to John Wilson, when I first got in the sport, I'm like, am I always going to have this anxiety and stuff? And he goes, yeah, it's some people are just like have that passion and they have it through that way, you know, more so than, so like you said, Chance can float around. I've been at tournaments with him, tons of them, and he's kissing babies and shaking hands and then boom, smashing people. Like, so it's like, he doesn't need much, you know, of a switch.
But you know what? The anxiety is real for everybody. It's how you deal.
Yeah.
Right? So anxiety is the same as yours. We all have it. We all handle it differently. It is what it is. We wouldn't compete if it didn't give us anxiety. Like if you really step back and think about it, why are we doing it? We're chasing a feeling. We're chasing stress.
It is
relief. That's really what it is. Chasing stress, go in a match, be under pressure, have success, have relief. That's like the process. And everyone deals with it differently, but that's the pseudo euphoria that comes along with that competitive stuff is really the high that we're all chasing. I mean, everyone is completely different, but at the end of the day, why do we come back if we don't want it? You know what I mean? Why do we do it? Something inside of the human brain is saying, go get some more of that.
Dude, it's just like a drug. You're describing how I used to feel when I was a junkie, man. It was like you just want that feeling again. And I never really, I mean, I thought of the feeling thing, but you just saying that right now really kind of hit a switch, because it's so true, because it's the anxiety. Like, because after all this shit's over, it's like, what the fuck did I even worry about this shit for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy. Like when it's all done, it's like when I went to the Florida States a couple weeks ago was the first tournament in 10 years that I've been pulling that I never pulled. And I had anxiety driving there, and I had to say, Craig, man, you're not even competing. And then once I got there, I really could enjoy the sport, like, and got to watch some of the youngsters pull in and really enjoy, that. But it's just so interesting, the high of the sport, man. It's like, because I came from bodybuilding, it was never that high. You were just miserable as fuck. You couldn't wait to eat. You're fucking half dead on stage. It wasn't even fun. But it's like with arm wrestling, it's like even with this match with what I have with Brendan coming up, I'm already in my head someday. I'm like, fuck, what the fuck am I thinking? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, that whole roller coaster, but it helps me train harder. You know what I mean? Like, it just helps me train harder, but it's real interesting. But I love that, because the mindset is what crumbles. I feel like people crumble, and you can see it sometimes in matches where people like lose confidence, and it's like all in their head sort of thing. And it's just like, it's a really interesting battle. It's like chess, combat, whatever you want to call this combat sport, but it's like, strategically moves and all this technique, and along with the mental aspect of getting into the game, because sometimes you can be up there and shit the bed, you're just not, you're not in the zone.
Everybody has bad days. You know what I mean? When it comes to lifting, you have a bad day. Like, you got a bad day. You're 10% weaker. That's who knows why? Just a bad day. Like, everyone has bad days, period. Sometimes your worst days in the gym can wind up being one of your best lifts.
Dude, it's crazy.
If you can turn it around, if you can pull yourself out. But
dude, those are the best workouts, when you don't want to train and you kind of, you're fucking going through the motions. Then the next thing you know, you're hitting a PR or whatever. It's just, I'm like that. I'm old as fuck now, dude. It's like I'm an old TV. I got to warm up, and it takes me a while to get going. But I'll tell you, but once you get flowing, it's like, man, I feel amazing. It's so interesting to me. But that's the narrative of the mind. I feel like people, once they start feeling uncomfortable, there's a saying that fatigue, what is it? It's fatigue makes weak men cowards. It's like when you're tired, you start talking about, am I going to give up? What excuses? It's like David Goggins talks about it when he's running. It's like fucking, you have this narrative when you're in this 60, 70 mile race or whatever, and you're like fucking talking to yourself going, what am I doing? I'm not good. There's no way I can do this. And this whole narrative that goes on in your mind. And sometimes it just crushes people,
Yeah, for sure.
But I think with your background with football, dude, it's so crazy how, you have to get into that mindset, because you're like a killer on the field, man. It's just like battle, gladiators.
I've said it for a long time. Like, as a player, when I was less mature and I didn't have the growing moments that I've had throughout life, I didn't understand the on off switch. So like, I just was walking around in life in that middle linebacker mentality, and it manifested into like negative behavior. Like,
oh yeah,
I was not a positive person. I was not a nice person. I was living that persona. That was me for many years. And now, like, I'm able now to
contain the violence.
Yes, it's still there. The dog is still there.
But you can contain it.
Yes, it's still there though. And I always say, like, people are like, oh, Paul's nice. People love to say, it's the nicest guy in arm wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you don't know me. I don't like, you know how I am, what I give off. But inside, like, I, like any other competitor, have darkness and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just about, with age and maturity, learning how to turn it on and off and control it more. It's been a tricky process. But like I said, I feel like coaching has helped me grow more than I'm helping those kids grow. Because as I see the different classes go, the different kids, the different personalities, and I deal with each one of them on a one-on-one basis and learn about their personality type, help them through their situations, I learn more about myself and how to handle things from my own perspective. So these things have become easier for me. The things that I didn't adhere to, like we talk about, like things like public speaking, people fear public speaking, on the same level as they fear death. you know,
Yes.
and I had anxiety about that at a young age too. And now I've just gotten to a point with those things that through coaching, that's become second nature to me. I'm not worried about cameras. I'm not worried about microphones. Those things, this experience has grown me probably more than I've helped kids grow. But that's just part of the process. And the mental aspect is just so big. And as far as like my role on our staff is largely, I handle a good bit of the motivational stuff, so it has forced me to dig into like people like Eric Thomas and like dig into aspects of history to find sources of motivation, like leaders of the past. Like it has forced me to educate myself on these like Sun Tzu type things.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that has grown me because every time I'm doing that research, prepping up, what is the mantra for this week? What is the pregame
Mhm.
speech? Like I am then inherently absorbing all of it. So those are the benefits of coaching. And one of the reasons why I can't get away from it is I think if I walked away from, my wife's always like, when are you going to stop? You are doing 55,000 different things at all times. Your energy's spread all over the place. When are you going to stop? And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I probably should stop, but like, then what's going to happen to me too? It's a symbiotic relationship. What am I going to lose if I walk away from that? Probably more than I'm expecting to lose.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective. I would love to hear one of those fucking pre-game speeches, man. One of those pre-game Paul Linn motivational speeches before I trained.
Four-letter explicit
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm game. I
There's,
gotta
there's
ask you though, do you
there is one on my Instagram that was done. We had a little quick documentary done. We do this game, Gold Star game for fallen soldiers, the mothers of fathers fallen soldiers, where our kids play under the name of that fallen soldier. And it's a super like it's such a great like cause. And these mothers come to the game and they stay with these kids, like they spend time after practice with them. Like they do all like the documentary was amazing. I didn't even like I knew it was going on, but the final product was crazy.
yeah.
And that's like a super emotional game for us. And there was some clips from that. That was, yeah, like those are the things why I can't stop coaching. Are you kidding me? We're doing things like that, I can't stop coaching. What am I gonna do? What kind of person am I? I don't get that enrichment that comes along with that stuff. So
Yeah, no, I can't. I totally understand, man. I was going to ask you, like, when you're talking about like flipping the switch and kind of how you're having more self growth as you get older and stuff. Do you think like having like a kid, being a dad now, like, do you think that's affected you? Because I noticed like when we adopted the kids 7 years ago, how it changed my life so dramatically and made me such a different person. Because just like you, the violent, crazy, negative past, fucking nonsense, in and out of the juvie, prison, jails, just institutions and just craziness. But once the kids are involved, it just seems to a whole new level of responsibility is you're raising another individual to be an asset, into society and stuff. So do you feel like that's changed you as a man?
absolutely. I mean, there's no way around that. There's zero way around it because you can't run from your influence. You know, at the end of the day, you can say whatever you say, but what you do is what they're seeing. What you're doing, how you're doing life is how they're making they're deciding what normal is or what success is or what failure is. They're how kids are. I mean, you got them now.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily always listen to you, but they always watch you. The
Yeah.
best influence you can have is by example, and that puts the pressure on. Because there's no margin for error there. You can't have an outburst.
Mhm.
You can't show your ass in front of them. You can't. and occasionally we all do. And it's a detrimental thing, but to me it has been great because now I have to soften my edges a little bit too. And I've been saying to my wife, I need a little girl, man, soften me up a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna work on another one here, and if
Nice.
it don't work out, we'll probably adopt too. But I need a little
Nice.
girl. I need to soften up even more.
Yeah, man, they're amazing. And it's just it's like the benefit, and just like how you were talking about coaching, man. And I can't see you walking away because you're still young, and it seems like you get so much more from what you give them, like I'm sure you give them a lot too, but it's just like it's like when I first got like clean and sober, they'd always say like you should always give it away, like, and help others, and to be into service so that you wouldn't think about your own problems and stuff. And like you said, if you had idle time on your hands and you weren't doing the things you were doing, would it keep you
Yeah.
away from being as motivated? Do the kids motivate you? I'm sure they do. I mean, when you go to these events and stuff, do you have pressure that you have a lot of people that are kind of rooting for you? Do you feel that kind of pressure, or is that something that you excel at because of the whole football background?
Yeah, I don't really think about that. I would say like what your first point about um you talk about sobriety and passing along and everything, and I'm watching my buddy Justin deal with that right now. And I think it's a real positive thing for him being able to have people reach out to him with their problems. I think that's helping, giving him motivation. And it's interesting because you talk about coaching and doing things, right? You're doing like what the world would perceive as positive and selfless things, right? So people say, "Oh, you're coaching, you're giving back to the community." But then there's that thing inside my conscience that says, like, I'm not going to accept a pat on the back because I may be getting more than I'm giving. So then that brings me back to like the whole, like, maybe my pseudo mantra in life. My wife and I always talk about this. And it's funny because our head coach at the high school that I coach at has said the same thing. We are here to try and our best to do the right thing for the right reasons. If you can live by the idea of doing the right thing for the right reasons, it'll keep you grounded in certain moments. But when you really think about that and you say, like, all right, you're giving up all this time of your life to go coach, and people are going to celebrate you for it because you're, whatever, helping the community. But is it for the right reasons if I'm getting more than I'm getting? So that's when I have to re-reflect and say, okay, do I need to give more to balance these scales? Because there never should be a time that I'm taking more away than I'm giving. So that whole do the right thing for the right thing, for the right reason has really resonated with me. And as you apply it to arm wrestling,